Hello all. Hey everybody. Hey, take a moment while we get organized to drop your name into the attendees list if you would. And I'm going to send out a reminder on the community, on the Slack channel that we're meeting. We'll be down a few folks today. So just, I guess, be prepared for a smaller attendance. Okay, very good. We're about 5 after. If you haven't had a chance to drop your name into the notes, please do. And does anyone have additional topics that they would like to see covered? Today's topics thus far include a couple of announcements and then some discussion and demonstrations on SMI conformance, on conformance testing. So if you have additional topics, please drop them in. And I guess we're about to briskly get underway. Oops, sorry, Dhruv. Dhruv, can you add your name back again? I hit the wrong button. So welcome everyone. It's Wednesday, the July 21st. It's the SMI community meeting. This is a CNCF hosted call. So swear at your own risk, I guess, or please don't rather. Please adhere to the CNCF's code of conduct. So we do record the meetings and post them on YouTube for the viewing pleasure of many others. Is anyone new on the call for the first time today? It might be nice to say a quick word, say hi briefly if you haven't been on this one before. And if you want to say hi in chat, that'll work as well.
Hi, Lee. This is my first one.
Saitan, very good.
Yeah.
We've got Aditya as well.
Yeah. Hi, my first SMI call as well.
Very good. Okay. And I'm going to expose Marlo as well.
I tried to add it, I swear, but I got eaten.
Oh. Then Keith, I mean, I don't know that this is horrifically important, but actually just as a reminder to me, is it ship it? Am I recalling the?
It's just shipped, SHIPT.
Got it. SHIPT. Got it. Very good. Nice. All right. Well, hey, hopefully this meeting is running slightly differently than usual, maybe hopefully in a better way, but maybe not. With that, let's jump into SMI conformance. It's been a topic, it's the first couple of topics that we have up. It's why there's a number of people from the Layer 5 community here to review the work that they've been doing really like over the, well, it's about a year now, I suppose. And that is to well, actually, I won't introduce the topic, but I'll just say, Dhruv, I think you're first up. If you want to tell us what SMI conformance is, and
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Dhruv. If I can share my screen, please.
yeah, please.
Okay.
Does it say that you're able to, or does it?
I host disabled participating screen sharing, something like that.
Okay. All participants. All participants. Okay. See if that worked.
Okay, let me try once again. Um, Voila.
Nice.
So I'm gonna zoom. You can see my screen. And okay, so today, first of all, I'm gonna talk about the general how Meshery SMI conformance works in Meshery and how you can invoke it. And in second part, few of my colleagues from Layer 5 will talk about how uh, we have created a SMI conformance GitHub action which you can use to automatically test the conformance of US deployment, and that being shown in the public dashboard to see whether it is conformed or not. So yeah, so basically there are two ways you can check whether your cluster is my conformant or not. Either you can use Meshery UI or you can use Meshery CTO, any one of them, to check whether your mesh is conformant or not. And basically, how the gist of it is, Meshery has a lot of Meshery adapters in it for each of the meshes itself, and each of them will personalizes a test according to the mesh it has, like the special annotations or the labels which it needs to has, which it need to have to run those particular tests. And it will basically clear. It will first of all deploy SMI conformance tool in your cluster, and then basically those adapters will tell those special settings for each of the mesh itself to the SMI conformance tool which is in your cluster, and it will start running all the uh, tests which we have talked about before. And basically the results of those particular tests will be getting back to Meshery, and they would be saved in a Meshery cloud provider. And in that particular provider, certain what they say official accounts, the results from those official accounts would be reflected in the public dashboard which we have, uh, which shows uh, the conformance of each of the mesh itself. So currently, the only official account is the Meshery's one, and we are running tests for each of the mesh itself. We would like it would be uh, it it would be like helpful or more logical if each of the mesh run their own test uh, and they are responsible for those tests itself. So to make it more easier, we have also created a GitHub action which they can also use in their CI/CD process whenever they release a new version of the mesh. If they don't want to manually trigger the test to update them using Mesh UI or Mesh CPO. So I will hand it over to Rudrash and Jubril to talk about the GitHub action over. Mm, Was I muted the whole time? If I was.
No, that makes sense. Actually, very briefly for context, actually, in part for Keith and Milena, geez,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm sorry, Keith and Marla, that do you mind flashing the SMI conformance dashboard just so that they're They have frame of reference for kind of the part of the goal, which
Yeah,
is
sure.
part of what what Meshri and the folks that are, Dhruv and Jubril and Rudraksh that are, and what they're showing today is there's a couple of things. They're placing a call for action to each of the service mesh projects, or to each, to Keith and to Marlo, like to whomever wants to run these tests. Like, here's how these things run as a service mesh project, or just as a consumer of meshes, as someone using service meshes. You can invoke this suite of tests. You can then, this facilitates the reporting of those tests. And part of the goal is to help make SMI, well, make it, to borrow from Pinocchio, I guess, to make it a real boy, to have a set of conformance tests, to validate the fact that there are implementations, and those implementations are adhering to the spec. And so there's a dashboard, or a couple of them, that show status of that. I think we've seen it on prior calls. And what the team here is showing today is some of the internals about the mechanics by which, what the tests are, how they run, how it is that you as individuals, as you as users, or you as someone representing a service mesh, can run these tests and verify whether or not the service mesh that you're using conforms or not. So good. With that, I guess over to Rudraksh for one of those mechanisms is what you guys are saying through a GitHub action. Is that the?
So, Jubil, would you like to go over the slides explaining?
Sure. So, small background. Each time you want to run SMI conformance test using this action, typically how you'd want to set this up is like probably a particular branch. So let's say Linkerd wanted to use this with every new release they had. They could, set this on a specific branch or maybe tag, and this would run each time that tag is made. So what happens is, hold on, let me share my screen. All right, so here is an example workflow. So using OSM as an example here is if you'd like, you could bring your own Kubernetes cluster like we've done here. If you don't, the action would detect whether you have one running and would provision one for you. Next step would be to install the service mesh itself, like you see here in the action. So fun fact, you could actually install the service mesh using Meshri, but that's not for today. So once you get this installed, you pass in a few parameters to the action. One would be the token, which when the action finished running, this would be used to upload your results to Meshri Cloud. Second is the platform. Meshri can be run using Docker or Kubernetes. So in this example here, we are using Docker, and the spec, by default, it would use SMI, but we hope sometime in the future we could expand this to do more than just SMI. And then the name of the service mesh you are trying to run the test against. So when this is done, it should look something like this. This isn't done yet. So this will go ahead and perform all these steps and would validate the SMI conformance of the service mesh you have, but this is still running. So we could probably wait for this to finish. And does anyone have any questions?
So I can go over and show how actually they could obtain some of the fields to use in the action. I'll quickly share my screen. Assuming that it's visible. So this is a Meshery dashboard, and currently I'm logged in. I'll just quickly log out. You select a provider here, you select Meshery, and oops. Then you see the sign in page. You sign in using one of these. Probably service mesh projects will be signing in using GitHub. They'll be having some sort of special accounts which provide longer expiration of tokens. Now, here I have signed in. I'll just get my token and I'll quickly copy this part. This is what we'll provide to the action. And spoilers, if I just go to my settings and update the secret here, I have a secret name provided on provider underscore token, which I'm actually using and providing it to the action so that it can send the results to the cloud provider. Now I'll just paste it here. And yeah, so we should be good to go now. Just like Jubril said, specify the name of your service mesh here. And right now we are installing OSM on our own. This would not be a thing in the future as Meshery CTL gets updated to install a cluster without using the UI. So, yeah, this process will become a little more seamless in the future. Now this one is triggered to be run on master whenever a push is created on master. So I'll push it to master. Phew. Thanks for waiting on clumsy me. Now, as you can see, this is the one we triggered and it's deploying a cluster and loading. This process takes a little time, so I took the liberty to do this all on my own earlier. And here you go. This is the result from this run. And we can also see it on our dashboard in Meshery UI. So yeah, this one. What's the date? Oh yeah, yeah. So basically this means that the results are being stored on the cloud provider and then we can publish them. I don't have the link handy.
Meshery.io/SMI.
Yeah, thanks. So then we'll be updating them here because we have it on our side. So, yeah, basically.
Nice. That's fantastic. I've seen this before, or actually, I take it back. I haven't seen that before. I haven't seen the GitHub action in action. That's exciting.
Yeah, we totally didn't patch it. Just about an hour ago, it was working since a decade. So
Good. Well, for for Keith and Marlo and the rest on the call, feedback or questions or comments on the initiative, on the approach, on what was shown?
So, and this is useful in making sure that base functionality works. My next question would be what the performance differences are. So that's part of the SMP, right?
Anyone else going to speak to that? I guess we don't have.
Yeah. So basically, since the action installs Meshery and Meshery CTL, you could actually run performance tests using Meshery CTL perf. So that would take in a file and a SMP compatible performance profile, and it will run the test against the endpoint. So you can use this action for more than just service mesh interface conformance test.
The next question is there a way to make sure that your performance does not get worse? Like do comparisons with previous runs, or I guess because it's GitHub Actions, you don't really know where it's running, right?
I'm not sure how to answer. I'm sorry.
So Marlo, your great questions. A couple of things. Yep, there's a second GitHub action that's teed up just after this one for pipelining. Well, it's kind of for two purposes, like pipelining service mesh performance. One, like half of that can be for validation of SMP as a spec. Lesser interesting than the use case that you're referring to, which is to actually verify that maybe for a given either release of a service mesh or a certain configuration of a service mesh, that A, the release isn't regressing in performance, and B, maybe your configuration, if from a user's perspective, is only improving or it stays the same. And so those are use cases for the pipelined action. If your runners, to your very good point, for GitHub Actions are, you're kind of like running a VM in a cloud service provider. You don't always get what you pay for, or your runner mileage might vary. Like even though you're saying I want a Ubuntu such 2 core 4 gig whatever, like you're right that like there's some variability within there. Actually, I can't believe I'm explaining this to you, understanding your background. So
No,
anyway,
it's fine because other people on the call may not know.
But the variability there. Then I think I am an ignoramus in this regard, but I understand that I think you can bring your own GitHub runners, like, or maybe to the extent that you're running GitHub Enterprise, that you can have a bit more control over what runner, the environment in which you're running your pipeline, and then might be able to get fairly confident about performance differences in the very same way that the GitHub action for SMI conformance will self-report the results of the test. That's the same goal, or the same, I don't mean to say it's an aspirational goal. I mean, like, that's the same thing that people can do with Meshery today, with Meshery the CLI as well today. The GitHub action for that will be a copy of the one that's here and kind of follow the same approach. And the hope is, at least myopically from the project's perspective, is that while the service meshes are potentially running an action to verify their conformance for SMI, that they might also in turn run a set of performance tests for their service mesh and might begin to self-report. And I think there's hope for that in context of the service mesh performance project and it positioning to begin publishing benchmark, like standard benchmarks. And I think that will snap the attention of the individual service mesh projects, and they might want to be in control of what tests are being run and how they're being reported. And so, yeah. I think your questions are well placed, and I think there's largely a yes answer to what you're asking.
That's great. It would be useful for, at least for me, to know how to do those particular pieces as far as adding performance in, or which ones you would recommend.
It's a good, there is, you know, this is somewhat fortuitous, this topic of service mesh performance. Tomorrow is the first service mesh performance meeting post the project going into the CNCF. And part of the discussion will be an open exploration of its charter or some of its roadmap and publishing benchmarks. Well, defining benchmarks and publishing results is certainly part of the charter today, but it's a timely question as well. That question about regression is an interesting one, and it's something that Meshry does facilitate. It's something that, for my part, I'm behind on the deliverable to Marlo about a simple video. Actually, for any of the folks from that represent Meshry, Marlo is looking for just a brief explanatory video that she can share with others about performance testing, how to run a performance test in Meshry. And so, okay, collectively, we need to hold ourselves to the fire there.
I would appreciate it.
Okay, good. We're toward the top of the time. So there's one other topic that is on the agenda. This other topic, Marlo, do you want to introduce the topic?
Okay, so the quick summary is that, and some of you already know this, the quick summary is that the Kubeflow on-prem group is trying to get their CI and CD spun up, which I know isn't SMI specific, but the hope is that once we get the CI CD spun up, we can replace, through community efforts, replace the Istio tie that Kubeflow has and instead use SMI. And this is for a few reasons. Number one is the way it's tied right now, it is hard coded to a particular version of Istio, which you can understand that when Istio changes its API, which it does, it makes it so that sometimes if you're running an Istio for one project and then you need an Istio for another project, you're now stuck running two different service meshes, which are expensive to do. The other thing is it is to the advantage for other service meshes to be able to run within Kubeflow, and there is quite a bit of community interest in this. But until there's a CI/CD set up for the on-prem, it's going to be harder to do that work because currently all the CI/CDs are either through AWS or they're through GCP instead of a more open source generic location. So we already have resources on Equinix Metal through their CNCF cluster to do this work, but they really need help. The people who have time or who are working on this, which unfortunately is not me because I just don't have the time, they need Terraform help. So they need help getting that CI/CD set up. So any help from this community, because I had known there was some interest within the community of helping them, please do show up on the call tomorrow. It's at 7:30 PST, which I know is early, but it is what it is. And it's partially so that they can also sync with Europeans. So it would be very helpful for them to get some help over there.
So I don't, Jubril, I don't know if there's any more of a suggestion needed there, but yeah, how do I be concise and say that Marlo's, the gauntlet, the challenge that Marlo is presenting is in the best interest for SMI as a project to win a workload, so to speak, to win a user and a significant user, to win Kubeflow. And so I'm giving my verbal +1 to helping out. So
Yeah, I appreciate that because part of what SMI has is a little bit of a chicken and the egg problem where if you want to be used, right, you need to already be being used. So I'm hoping that by having it as an option with Kubeflow that some people will pick it up and maybe start flushing out any issues with SMI so it can get some maturity. And I think at that point it'll gain traction. But from what I see, it's kind of been semi-stuck for a while because of this.
Nice. Very good. Keith, did we miss anything from you today by chance?
No, I've just been working on getting caught up with the controller SDK for SMI, and I've got a little bit of work done to make it work with deleting traffic split resources and just ironing out some of the kinks of the integration tests there. So I'm chugging along that avenue, and hopefully there's a point where we can meet in the middle with Kubeflow having its CI/CD pipeline built out, and Istio having at least one resource supported through the SMI controller. We can get part of that conformance test grid looking green.
Nice. Yeah, you just another verbal +1, I guess. Good, great, excellent. Yeah, I wish. Well, for my part, we're doing what we can to bring people to bear on trying to help SMI be, yeah, a real boy, so a real girl. So 7:30 PST, 7:30 a.m. PST.
AM, sorry. Yeah, I should have put that in.
Nice. Well, thank you all. Hope to talk to you. So quick reminder, so today's the 21st. There was the intermediary, like every other week meetings on multi-cluster type things. Those are postponed for the moment, which then 2 weeks from now, I think that lands us on the 4th. And there, I expect that we'll have a few SMI roadmap discussions happening as people come off of summer vacations and resume. So fingers crossed for some juicy conversations on the 4th. Yeah. Thank you all. See you in a couple of weeks. See you tomorrow even, potentially.
Thank you, Lee.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
By all.